As the Lord passed along the public road of Dvārakā, his head was protected from the sunshine by a white umbrella. White feathered fans moved in semicircles, and showers of flowers fell upon the road. His yellow garments and garlands of flowers made it appear as if a dark cloud were surrounded simultaneously by sun, moon, lighting, and rainbows. This is to show the presence of Lord is extraordinary. Generally, we'll never have sun and moon together, or lightning and sun together. You'll never see that. There is lightning in the sky and sun together, nor rainbow and moon together. Never happens in the. But they all come together to celebrate Lord's presence in this world. So everybody's eyes are totally glued to Lord. Now today's verse. Pravistastu graham prito.
Pravistastu graham pitro.
Parisvakta swamatrabhe.
Parisvakta swamatrabhe.
Bhavande shirsha sapta.
Bhavande shirasa sapta.
Devaki pramukha muda.
Devaki pramukha muda.
Please read translation.
After entering the house of his father, he was embraced by the mothers present, and the Lord offered his obeisances unto them by placing his head at their feet. The mothers were headed by Devaki, his real mother.
So Lord offered his head at the feet of the parents. All the mothers and father were there. The mother was headed by Devaki, his real mother. And Vasudeva had total 18 wives. So all of them were there. And Mother Devaki, his real mother, is also there. She was heading all the mothers. Yeah. So everybody was equally loving to Lord, because Lord is transcendental. Every mother equally loves Lord. Please read, Prabhu.
Lord Kṛṣṇa also did not distinguish his real mother from his stepmothers, and he equally offered his obeisances unto all the wives of Vasudeva present on the occasion. According to scriptures also, there are 7 mothers: the real mother, the wife of the spiritual master, the wife of Brahmana, the wife of the king, the cow, the nurse, and the earth. All of them are mothers. Even by this injunction of the Shastras, the stepmother, who is the wife of the father, is also as good as the mother, because the father is also one of the spiritual masters. Lord Kṛṣṇa, the Lord of the universe, plays the part of an ideal son just to teach others how to treat their stepmothers.
So by these examples of Lord bowing down to his mother, their feet. So he is also teaching to the world how to treat one's own mother as well as others. So while he is in this world, he always followed the Vedic system. He never violated Vedic system. Tahaputram ankamaropya.
Tahaputram ankam aropya.
Asmita payodhara.
Snehasmata payodhara.
Harshavihvalita tatma.
Harshavihvalitatmanaha.
Shurnetra jair chalai.
Shishurnetra jalai.
Please read.
The mothers, after embracing their son, sat him on their laps. Due to the pure affection, milk sprang from their breasts. They were overwhelmed with delight, and tears from their eyes wetted the Lord.
So this is an incident that is happening after Lord, concluded the Kurukshetra war, and also enthroned Pandavas as the rulers of the world, and now he's returning back to Dvārakā. So Lord's age at this time is, anyone want to guess what is Lord's age at this time?
81, Prabhuji.
What is Lord's age, biological age at this time?
125 years.
So he's 120 years. So his mothers would be
160, 170.
Yeah. So this is actually, so you can see here, the mother. So Lord was seated in the, on the on the thighs of mother, on the laps of, and due to the affection towards Lord, milk sprang from their breasts. The mothers were 140 years or so. Right? So the point is the relation between the devotee and Lord. Lord, first of all, is transcendental, and the relation between the devotee and Lord is also transcendental. So this is in connection with a pure devotee. As soon as they come in contact, their original Vatsalya rasa, because that is the way they are connected.
Just because I'm not saying anything, that doesn't mean you can steal everything.
This is
Sorry, are you asking or okay? Yeah. So because of the Vatsalya rasa between the devotees, so the point is the Vatsalya rasa is ever fresh. Meaning, it's not like, oh, now I'm 140, now my son has to serve me. It's not like that. In the eternal relationships, so even for example, when we go, for example, we get the opportunity to go back to Godhead. If suppose we have a specific eternal relationship, that is going to be eternal forever. Meaning, in this material world, when you become, or maybe your parents become old, you start serving them, right? But in this case, the transcendental relation is always going to be the same across, or it's eternally the same, right? The same kind of affection and exchanges will be there, just like when the Lord was only a little boy, how mother was feeding milk. So similarly, whenever that their connection happens, again the same emotions and feelings will revive. So this is because it's all on the transcendental plane, and it's all a relation with the Lord. Right? This won't happen in the ordinary relations in the material world. Right? So tears from the eyes wetted the Lord. Right? So that is the transcendental emotion of the devotees.
So since Prabhu, Krishna doesn't age beyond 16 years, so even though he's 120 years, right, he looks like 16, right?
Yeah, that is also true. Specifically, I'm talking about the devotees here, the parents, mothers.
Okay.
So for them, it's the same pure affection when they were, when Krishna was even young, right? Because that Vatsalya will be equally effective in the spiritual realm. Right? Yeah. So whenever they meet, the reciprocation will be similar. Yeah, please read this.
Yeah. When Lord Krishna was at Vrindavana, even the cows would become moistened by affection towards him, and he would draw milk from the nipples of every affectionate living being.
Anyone who loves, he would have the same kind of exchange between them. Like even cows would affectionately see Lord as their child, and they actually draw milk. They produce milk as soon as they see Lord. Yeah. So everybody has the same Vatsalya rasa in Vrindavan. Yeah. Ata visatsva ata visatsva bhavanam
Atha visatsva bhavanam
kamam anuttamam
sarvakamam anuttamam
prasādāyatra patnīnām
prasadayatra patnīnām
sahasrāni cha sodasha.
sahasrāni chodasya.
Please read.
Thereafter, the Lord entered his palaces, which were perfect to the fullest extent. His wives lived in them, and they numbered over 16,000.
So Lord is the supreme owner of everything in this world. So everything exists to fulfill his desires. Right? So this whole setup in Dvārakā was primarily built for his satisfaction. Sarva kamam anuttamam means So all desires can be perfectly fulfilled by the place, the surroundings that he has in Dvārakā. So everything is there to fully satisfy Lord. And now he, from the entrance of the home of the palace, now after having received by the parents, now he enters the chambers of the queens. Now they were all receiving him, right? So they are numbered about 16,000. But actually it says Sahasrani cha Sodasha. Sahasrani means 1,000. Sodasha means 16. Actually, the number of wives are 16,108. So the cha represents that, more than 16,000, right? Sahasrani thousands, cha over and above. Sodasha means 16,000 and above, which is actually 16,108 to be specific. So all of them were receiving Lord. We'll see. So the whole point is, see from the perspective of these devotees, how they are reciprocating with the Lord. First, we saw the general devotees of the city. Then we saw how the devotees of Vatsalya Rasa received. Now we are seeing how the devotees in Madhurya Rasa received Lord. So this is a basic description of the entire Dvārakā city, how everything is perfectly arranged for the full satisfaction of the Lord. Please read this part.
The personality of Godhead means one who is full with all power, all energy, all opulences, all beauties, all knowledge, and all renunciation. Therefore, in the palaces of the Lord, there was nothing wanting for fulfilling all desires of the Lord. The Lord is unlimited, and therefore his desires are also unlimited, and the supply is also unlimited.
Lord is the supreme proprietor of everything. Naturally, he is unlimitedly powerful and unlimited in everything, including his desires. Right? So everything exists to satisfy the Lord, and we are all part and parcels meant to satisfy the Lord. Right? Patnya patim prosya grahānupāgatam.
Patnyam
Patim prasya grahanupaagatam.
Vilokya sanjātamano mahotsava.
Vilokya sanjātamano mahotsavaha.
Uttāsturarat sahasa sanasayat.
Asturaraddaha sanasayat.
Akam vrataivrinditalochano nanaha.
Sakam vrataivrinditalochanaha.
Patniyaha means the wives of Lord. Right? So now wives of the Lord saw Lord for the first time after a long gap. So their heart was totally, their mind was totally blissful. Totally, there was a festival in their heart. Right? So Vilokya Sanjata Mano Manotsava. Manotsava means, it's a festival in the mind. Just by seeing Lord, Vilokya means just by seeing the Lord, they developed this. There was a festival atmosphere in their mind just by seeing the Lord. Please read.
The queens of Lord Sri Kṛṣṇa rejoiced within their minds to see their husband home after a long period abroad. The queens got up at once from their seats and meditations. As was socially customary, they covered their faces shyly and looked about coyly. Yeah.
So all the queens, they got up to receive the Lord. Their mind was filled with Lord. They were celebrating Lord, but of course, they cannot go and just embrace. So they were all, following the customs there. They were shy and coy. Yeah, please read.
Here is another manifestation of the feature of his internal potency. He can expand himself in as many forms of spiritual identity as he desires, even though he is one without a second. It is confirmed by the Shruti mantra that the Absolute is one alone, and yet he becomes many as soon as he so desires. These manifold expansions of the Supreme Lord are manifested as plenary and separated portions.
So all jivas are actually part and parcel of the Lord. Mamai vamso jivaloke jiva bhuta sanatana manasasthani indriyani prakritin sthani karshati. That is about the jivas of the material world. But the point is, everybody is but part and parcel of the Lord. So, but these jivas who are constant companions of the Lord, they are actually representative of the Hadini potency of the Lord, which is the internal potency. Internal potency is always constantly engaged in the service of the Lord. He can expand himself. So it is almost the potency of the Lord. It's the closest potency of the Lord that's always manifest to serve the Lord. So all these wives are actually that internal potency, expansions of the internal potency. Ordinarily, a yogi or mystic living being is able to expand himself at most tenfold expansions of his body, but the Lord can do so to the extent of as many thousands or infinitely as he likes. Now he expanded at 16,100. What to speak of 16,100? He can expand into millions of living entities. So there is no limit. But an ordinary yogi can only do up to a few hundred at most, right? Tenfold. Kardamuni expanded into 8. Yeah, there was many also expands sometimes. But they're all limited. They're all yogis who can only do a little. But Lord can expand himself into 16,001, husbands of each of these wives. Right? That is the extraordinary potency of the Lord. Please read.
One should know, therefore, that the Lord is never on the level of the living beings, who are but expansions of his marginal potency, and one should never equalize the potent and the potency. One should not therefore become astonished to learn that the Lord married so many wives. On the contrary, one should affirm that even if the Lord marries 16,000 million wives, he is not completely manifesting his unlimited and inexhaustible potency.
Some people wonder, how can it be possible that he expanded himself into so many people, to be wives of so many people? But actually, that is nothing. That is a very minor manifestation of his spiritual potencies. So, great devotees do not get astonished by any of this. They just engage in, they accept it and fully engage in the service of the Lord. Tamatmajair drishtibirat antaratmana.
Tamatmajadrishtibhirantaratmana
Duranta bhava parirevire patim.
Durantavava parirevirepatim
Dhamapi asravad ambunetrayor.
Niruddhamapyashravadambunetrayor
Vilajjitainam bhruguvarya vilklavat vaiklavat.
Vilajjitinam Bhriguvarya Vaiklavat.
Please read.
Then they embraced him usually, and then they sent their sons to embrace him.
You can read the whole thing actually.
Yeah. The unsuperable ecstasy was so strong that the queens who were shy first embraced the Lord in the innermost recesses of their hearts. Then they embraced him visually and then they sent their sons to embrace him. But, O chief amongst the Rugos, though they tried to restrain their feelings, they inadvertently shed their tears.
So this is the kind of relation exists between the devotees, devotee and the Lord. Right? So the devotee at this Madhurya Bhava, they're in constant ecstasy. Just by seeing the Lord, first they embraced him in the innermost recesses of the heart, and they embraced through their eyes, and then they sent their sons, because as a customary they don't want to go and embrace Lord. So they just send their children, sons, who would go and embrace the Lord. And it is as good, because children are expansions of the mother's body. They feel themselves as if they have embraced the Lord through these children. And they were all, fully in ecstasy just by seeing the Lord. But one may wonder, it's their husband, and most of the year Lord is always with them. How is it such feelings exist at all towards the Lord? But for the pure devotee, it's an ever-increasing joy to see the Lord. Even though they were the wives of the Lord, their joy was always increasing just by seeing the Lord. Every time they see, it's a different joy. So why these descriptions were there at all? We should think about it. These descriptions are not at all over glorification of what existed there. It is actually telling the actual emotions of the devotees in such a particular rasa. Okay, so that's the whole point of these writings by Vyasadeva, so that we understand what it means to be a devotee in this particular rasa. Right? So even though Lord is their husband and they have children, they are all old, still, as soon as Lord was visible before the eyes, the pure devotee goes through these emotions. So they embrace him visibly, and then they embrace, they shed tears, right, of ecstasy. And so this is the loving exchange between the devotees and the Lord. Always, it's ever increasing. Please read.
Although due to feminine shyness, there were many hindrances to embracing the dear husband, Lord Sri Krishna. The queens performed that act by seeing him, by putting him in the force of their hearts, and by sending their sons to embrace him. Still, the act remained unfinished, and tears rolled down their cheeks despite all endeavors to check them. One indirectly embraces the husband by sending the son to embrace him, because the son is developed as part of the mother's body. The embrace of the son is not exactly the embrace of husband and wife from the sexual point of view, but the embrace is satisfaction from the affectionate point of view. The embrace of the eyes is more effective in the conjugal relation, and thus, according to Srila Jiva Goswami, this is nothing wrong in such exchange of feeling between husband and wife.
So being Lord's consorts, so these were their feelings when they actually just witnessed the Lord. These are not possible between ordinary living beings. It may be there, just a glimpse of it may be there in the beginning, but it won't last long. These are extraordinary, relations. This is actually pure spiritual rasa. Yajapyasau swagatorha gata raho gatas.
Yasau parshvagato raho gatas.
Tatapi tashangriyugam navam navam.
तथापि तस्याङ्घ्रियुगं नवं नवम्
Pade pade ka virameta tatpadach.
पदे
Pade
पदे काविरमेत तत्पदाच्
Chalapi yachri na jahati karhichet.
चराचरेण जहाति कर्हिचित्
Although Lord Sri read through,
Yeah, please read.
although Lord Sri Krishna was constantly by their sides as well as exclusively alone, his feet appeared to them to be never newer and newer. The goddess of fortune, although by nature always restless and moving, could not quit the Lord's feet. So, what woman can be detached from those feet, having once taken shelter of them?
So Lord Krishna was constantly by their sides, like I was telling. And he's alone because he is with every queen in each of the 16,108 palaces. However, his feet appeared to them, to the devotee, to the wife, always like fresh, new. They never develop familiarity with Lord, meaning, oh, he's my husband, I can say something, or they never feel like that. The extraordinary relation between the devotee and the Lord always remain the same, irrespective of the amount of connection they had, amount of years or amount of time they spent together. So goddess of fortune, although by nature restless and moving, could not quit the Lord's feet. So what woman can be detached from those feet, having once taken shelter of them? So nobody would like to quit the shelter of the feet of the Lord. Yeah. Please read.
The living beings are by constitution feminine by nature. The male or the enjoyer is the Lord, and all manifestation of his different potencies are feminine by nature. In the Bhagavad Gita, the living beings are designated as Parashakti or superior potency. The material elements are Apara Shakti or inferior potency. Such potencies are always employed for the satisfaction of the employer and the enjoyer. The Supreme Lord is the Lord himself, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 5.9. The potencies, therefore, when engaged directly in the service of the Lord, revive the natural color, and thus there is no disparity in relationship disparity in the relationship of the potent and the potency.
The Lord. So in the material world, all the jivas are actually prakriti of the Lord. Prakriti means, prakriti is meant, what is the purpose of prakriti? Prakriti is meant to be servant, subservient to Purusha. There is only one Purusha in this world. That is the Lord. The entire prakriti, Mother Nature, and also the living entities. Mother Nature is, the inanimate energy of the Lord. And the jivas, which are the para prakriti of the spiritual or in superior potency of the Lord. Both are energies, both are prakriti, and the only purpose of prakriti is to serve the Lord. But if you look at the world, in this world, whether you have male body or female body, everybody tries to be an enjoyer. So when you want to be an enjoyer, you are not a prakriti, you are actually acting as in the spirit of Purusha. So when you act in the spirit of Purusha in this world, naturally there will be reactions to your actions. And there will be karma bandhana. Karma bandhana means you will be subjected to reactions of your own actions, which you acted in the spirit of being a Purusha. And the karma bandhana continues and you forever live in this existence, in the samsara, until you get out of that spirit of enjoyer. Right? So the main thing that keeps us in the middle world is the Purusha Hankara. Whether you are a female or male, the spirit of being the enjoyer in this world. Right? But actually, by constitution, we are Prakriti and we are meant to serve the Lord. When we are in the spirit of servants, there is no karma, there is no accumulation of karma. All actions will be akarma or karma free. In fact, they actually remove any bondage that you had accumulated in the past. When you start acting in this world, in a karmic way, where there is no reactions to your actions, then you actually free yourself from karma bandhana. Please read this very nicely.
The highest perfection of human life is to seek some employment under the Lord's supreme service. That will make one extremely happy. One need not seek the moving goddess of fortune without the relation of the Lord.
Yeah. So people in this world endeavor to earn money more and more, with the hope that they can enjoy this world better, right? That is the whole spirit. Why people want more and more things of this world? It is an expression of their spirit of enjoyment. In fact, if we serve the Lord, naturally Lakshmi will follow him, and so one need not really hanker after the things of this world. When Lord is satisfied and smiles, that is the real remuneration for devotee. That is the actually, when Lord is satisfied, everybody is satisfied, including the demigods and his wives, Lakshmi, and everybody will be with him. There is no separate endeavor to individually satisfy other things. We should only try and satisfy the Lord in everything we do. And that we can do when we don't have the spirit of enjoyment. If you have the spirit of enjoyment, but you externally do some devotion service, it's still not pure offering. So Lord, it's like sweet rice with some sand particles, right? Lord won't accept very well. Of course, we are in the conditioned state. We are never pure in the beginning to begin with. That is the reason we offer through the mercy of Guru and Acharyas, so that if we offer something, Lord may not accept, but we have confidence that our Acharyas will give us the helping hand to actually engage us in the service of the Lord. So we go through the Acharyas for that reason, because we know we are not pure yet. We still have the enjoyment propensities. Nipanam Kshitibhara Janmanam
Evam Nripanam Kshitibhara-janmanam
Akshauhinibhi Parivritta Tejasam
Akshauhinibhi parivritta tejasam
Vidhaya Vairam Swasano Yatanalam
Vidhaya vairam swasano yathalam
Mitho Vadheno Parato Nirayuda.
Mitho vadeno parato nirayuda.
Please read.
The Lord was pacified after killing those kings who were burdensome to the earth. They were puffed up with their military strength, their horses, elephants, chariots, infantry, etc. He himself was not a party in the fight. He simply created hostility between the powerful administrators, and they fought amongst themselves. He was like the wind which causes friction between bamboos and so sparks a fire.
So Lord comes to this world to establish religion, right? Pavitranaya sadhuna vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanabdhaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Pavitranaya sadhuna, to protect the pious or the devotees. Vinashaya cha dushkritam means to annihilate the miscreants, the unwanted people, or the so time and again Lord comes, or he, through the agency of material nature, he creates environment where the greedy and the people with bad mentality or bad rulers will be annihilated from this world. And he doesn't do it by himself, right? Just like in Kurukshetra war, he didn't lift one weapon, except for Arjuna. He just lifted for temporarily to protect the devotee, but otherwise he didn't lift a single weapon, but he accomplished his plan to re-establish dharma through creating a fight in Kurukshetra between Pandavas and Arjuna, Pandavas and Kauravas, right? So he doesn't start the fire, but he will be like wind, which is invisible, which will act between wood to create fire between the wood, right? By the friction of the wood, naturally the bamboos, naturally there will be fire automatically created. That is how forest fires get created. But is the wind responsible for it? No, wind just created such force such that the bamboos, there is a friction between bamboos that, whereby the fire gets created. But he is not directly responsible. It is the bamboos who actually rubbed them with each other and created the fire. So in that way, he accomplishes his motives or his plans without, at the appropriate time, through engaging his material energy or spiritual energy. His parashakti or aparashakti. Yeah. He simply created hostility between powerful administrators, and they fought among themselves. He was like the wind which causes friction between bamboos and so sparks fire. Yeah.
The Lord is the genuine proprietor and enjoyer of everything manifested in his creation. Unfortunately, influenced by the deluding energy, the living being becomes a false enjoyer under the dictation of the modes of nature. Puffed up by such a false sense of becoming God, the deluded living being increases his material strength by so many activities and thus becomes the burden of the earth, so much so that the earth becomes completely uninhabitable by the sane. This state of affairs is called dharmasya glanihi, or misuse of the energy of the human being. When such misuse of human energy is prominent, the saner living beings become perturbed by the awkward situation created by the vicious administrators who are simply burdens of the earth. And the Lord appears by his internal potency just to save the saner section of humanity and to alleviate the burden due to the earthly administrators in different parts of the world.
Yeah. So time and again there will be situations where he had to come and cleanse the atmosphere, right? Who are simply burden earth, and Lord appears by his internal potency just to save the saner section of humanity and to alleviate the burden due to earthly administrators in different parts of the world. So that is the purpose for which he comes. Please read.
The deluding energy is my potency, and thus it is not possible for the dependent living beings to supersede the strength of the material modes. But those who take shelter in me, the personality of Godhead, Sri Kṛṣṇa, can cross over the gigantic ocean of material energy. This means that no one can establish peace and prosperity in the world by fruitive activities or by speculative philosophy or ideology. The only way is to surrender unto the Supreme Lord and thus become free from the illusion of the deluding energy.
What is this verse? The deluding energy is my potency.
Vaivihesha gunamai.
Mamamaya Duratyaya.
Mameva ye prapadante mayametam tarantite.
Mayametam tarantite. Right? Those who mam eva ye prapadante. Only me, my shelter. Prapadyante means take, surrender and take shelter of me. Mayametam tarantite. They will overcome. So the only way to overcome material energy is to surrender to the Supreme Lord. Yeah. So these are next few verses. I think all the reception is over. Vyasdev just glorifies the nature of the Lord in the next two other verses as well. Three more verses. Sa esha naralokesmin.
Sayesha naralokesmin
Avatirna swamayaya.
avatirna swamayaya
Emi Sri Ratna Kaputasto.
Reme Stri Ratna Kutasto
Bhavan Prakruto Yata.
Bhagavan Prakruto Yatha.
Yeah, please read.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, out of his causeless mercy, appeared on this planet by his internal potency and enjoyed himself amongst competent women as if he were engaging in mundane affairs.
So the words are carefully used here. He married 16,100 wives. And it looked like, for many people who just go, read the descriptions of ordinary people of this pastime, they think this is just another, what is so great about, he just married and enjoyed, right? People think like that. But actually, Vyasadeva is clarifying here, as if he were engaging in mundane affairs. Because it's not mundane. That's why he has to explicitly say that. As if he were engaging in mundane affairs. The reason is it's not mundane affair. Actually, it is actually exchange between devotee and the Lord. But for the ordinary material eye, it appears like ordinary material affairs. It appears like prakriti yata, as if it were a mundane material affair. So he actually originally appeared by his internal potency. But those who are covered by external potency, they cannot see the nature of the Lord. Please read.
The Lord married and lived like a householder. This is certainly like a mundane affair. But when we learn that he married 16,108 wives and lived with them separately in each and every palace, certainly it is not mundane. Therefore, the Lord living as a householder amongst his competent wives is never mundane, and his behavior with them is never to be understood as mundane sex relation. The women who became the wives of Lord are certainly not ordinary women, because to get the Lord as one's husband is the result of many, many millions of births, tapasya. When the Lord appears on different lokas or planets, or on this planet of human beings, he displays his transcendental pastimes just to attract the conditioned souls to become his eternal servitors, friends, parents, and lovers respectively in the transcendental world, where the Lord eternally reciprocates such exchange of service.
So Lord marrying 16,108 wives, and in fact living with each one of them as if it is their own husband in their own palace, is certainly extraordinary. It's not to be thought as mundane, because no mundane person can do that. So all these things, they're all actually on the spiritual platform. So this is how the whole point is, to give a quick glimpse of what happens in the spiritual world. So in the spiritual world, every jiva get to connect with the Lord on an individual basis, just like each of these wives were able to connect individually. So in the spiritual world also, everybody has a direct access and direct connection and direct relation with the Lord. And in that relation, just like the wives, each of them were very satisfied. We never feel anything amiss or missing in that relation with the Lord in the spiritual world. So everybody will be very, very satisfied. And these wives of Lord, they are not ordinary. They are actually, they were great tapasvis in their previous lives. That is achieved after many, many millions of births of austerity. That's what is mentioned. To get Lord as their husband is an extraordinary thing. It's not possible for any ordinary person. Yeah, please read.
The women amongst whom he lived as their husband are not, therefore, the women of this mundane world, but are eternally related with him as transcendental wives, a position which they attain by perfection of devotional service. That is their competency. The Lord is Param Brahma, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Conditioned souls seek after perpetual happiness in all places, not only on this earth, but also on other planets throughout the universe. Because constitutionally, a spiritual spark, as he is, can travel to any part of God's creation.
That's the potency of the jiva. Yeah, please read.
As such, the Supreme Being, Param Brahma, certainly does not seek his happiness anywhere in the material world, nor can his paraphernalia of happiness be found in the material world. He is not impersonal, because he is the leader and supreme being amongst innumerable living beings. He cannot be impersonal.
No, Lord cannot be impersonal. Because based on all of that what we heard, he personally connected with each one. So he's actually, and he doesn't seek any material happiness. He's not, because ordinary jivas, they can only understand material affairs. They bring down Lord to their level of understanding. I think Lord is like one. Actually, Lord is God. Lord cannot be equal to or compared to anyone of this world. So there are all types of extraordinary activities Lord did. One of them is marrying 7 wives, but he also lifted Govardhan and killed great demons of Putana, Akasura. So we should take into consideration of everything to understand the extraordinariness of the Lord, not just to pick only a few pastimes for our convenience.
Prabhuji, I have a question. So, Prabhu, just the wife, 16,000 wives of the Lord, does they all know that Lord is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or it was covered by Yoga Maya so that he can give the loving exchange?
We will cover that, yeah. So ordinary jivas, they are covered by Mahamaya and they think that Lord is ordinary. The wives of the Lord are covered by internal potency and they think Lord is their loving husband. Yeah, that is the last verse actually.
Okay.
Vyasdev covers your question.
Okay, okay.
Uddhama bhava pishunamala valvihasa.
Uttama Pishuna Malavalguhasa
Vridavaloka nihito madano pisyasam.
Valoka Nihato Madano Piyasam
Samyuha chapam ajaha pramadottamasta.
Sammohya Chapam Ajahat Pramadottamasta
Shendriyam vimatitum nasekhu.
Yasyendriyam Vimatitum Kuhakairna Sekuhu.
Please read.
Although the queen's beautiful smiles and furtive glances were all spotless and exciting, and although they could conquer Cupid himself by making him give up his bow in frustration, and although even the tolerant Shiva could fall victim to them, still, despite all their magical traits and attractions, they could not agitate the sense of the Lord.
So Lord is not attracted to them because of their features or beauty or their smiles. They're not, it's not the attractive feature for the Lord. It is the Lord is always, he sees the heart of the devotee. So it's not because of that. So although, and also other point mentioned is, although they could conquer Cupid himself by making him give up his bow in frustration. Generally, ordinarily the attraction between male and female was created by Cupid through his arrow. That is the mundane lust that he creates between, the opposite sex. But these queens were so powerful, they can actually make the Cupid himself drop his bow in frustration, right? Which the Cupid is so powerful, he could create this kind of a material lust in the case of even Lord Shiva, right? When he could fall victim to it. But the relation between the queens of Dvārakā and Lord Kṛṣṇa is so extraordinary, it's not mundane at all. So the role of Cupid was non-existent there. It's not at all. So it is all to say that this is not ordinary mundane affair. This whole verse is saying that it's not because of Cupid that the Lord and his wives, the kind of exchange between them was created at all, right? So Lord cannot be agitated for, through the material beauty of his queens. Yeah, please read.
The path of salvation or the path of going back to Godhead always forbids the association of women, and the complete Sanatana Dharma or Varnashrama Dharma scheme forbids or restricts association with men. How then can one be accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is addicted to more than 16,000 wives? This question may be relevantly raised by
inquisitive persons.
Inquisitive persons really anxious to know about the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord.
So one may wonder why Lord had to marry so many wives. Is it that the Lord was attractive to going materially in this world, right? One may wonder like that. So to answer this question, the sages at Naimisharanya have discussed the transcendental character of the Lord in this and in the following verses. It is clear herein that the feminine attractive features which can conquer Cupid or even the supermost tolerant Lord Shiva could not conquer the senses of the Lord. Cupid's business is to invoke mundane lust. The whole universe is moving, being agitated by Cupid's arrow. The activities of the world are being carried on by the central attraction of male and female. The male is searching after a mate to his liking, and the female is looking after a suitable man. That is the way of material stimulus. That is how it works. But Lord is totally detached. That's what Vyasadeva is trying to establish here in these verses. It's not because the wives were beautiful that Lord is attracted to them. They could not hesitate by their sweet glances. So it explains how Lord is Atma Rama, and it's not because of the cupidly attraction between them. So therefore, the queens could not satisfy the Lord by their feminine attractiveness, but they satisfied him by their sincere affection and service. This is the important one. Only by unalloyed transcendental loving service could they satisfy the Lord, and the Lord was pleased to treat them as wives in reciprocation. It is the devotee who who wanted to engage in loving service of the Lord, and Lord want to just reciprocate, right? And so Lord actually married them and acting as a husband for them. Right? Thus, being satisfied by the unalloyed service only, the Lord reciprocated the service just like a devout husband. Otherwise, he had no business becoming the husband of so many wives. He is the husband of everyone. But to one who accepts him as such, he reciprocates. Lord reciprocates to those who accept him as their husband in this way. So it is always the reciprocation that Lord is doing here. Right? It's already explained in the previous verse that the Lord appeared like a mundane husband, but factually his relation with his wives was transcendental, pure and unconditional by the modes of material nature. It is not ordinary at all. It's not material. So again and again, Vyasadeva is focusing that because that is where people fall victim to. They start thinking, oh, this looks like, another material affair. That's why Acharyas go again and again describe in clear terms how the attraction between Lord and his queens was. Yeah. Now this is about again answering to Nitin Prabhu's question here. Tamayam manyate loko
Tamayam
Manyate loko
yasangam api sanginam
Sangam api sanginam
atmaupamyena manujam
Atmaupamyena manujam
yapinyanam yato buddha.
Vruhanam yato buddha.
Yeah, please read.
The common materialistic conditioned soul speculate that the Lord is one of them. Out of their ignorance, they think that the Lord is affected by matter, although he is unattached.
So how do abudaya means foolish people? Yapivanam yato abudha. Abudha means the foolish people. So foolish people think like this. How do they think? They speculate that Lord is one of them. He's just like one more person. Right? Out of their ignorance, they think that the Lord is affected by matter, though he is unattached. Vyasadeva is very clearly telling this Lord Kṛṣṇa is not ordinary human being like you and me. Even though he might be engaged in all these activities of the material world, it is only reciprocating devotion to it's all on the transcendental plane. It's all reciprocation to his devotees. That's all. He is not attracted to their beauty or anything. Right? Yeah. Please read.
The word abuddha is significant here due to ignorance only. The foolish mundane wranglers misunderstand the law, the Supreme Lord, and spread their foolish imaginations amongst innocent persons by propaganda.
Yeah, people bring down Lord to human level. Please read.
The mental speculators compare everything from the standpoint of experimental knowledge of their own selves. Thus, when the Lord is found to act like an ordinary person in matrimonial bondage, they consider him to be like one of them, without considering that the Lord can at once marry 16,000 wives or more. Due to poor fund of knowledge, they accept one side of the picture while disbelieving the other. This means that that due to ignorance, only they always think of Lord Krishna as like themselves and make their own conclusions, which are absurd and unauthentic from the version of Srimad Bhagavatam.
It's very clear. What goes on in the mind of a speculator? Etat ishanam ishaya
Etad Ishanam Ishasya
Asto Prakriti-sthopi Tadgunai
Prakriti
Prakriti-stopi
tadgunai
Ayujjate Sadatmaste
na yujyate sadatmatmaste
Tata Buddhistada
Yata Buddhi
yata
Tada
buddhi
Shriya.
tadashaya.
Yeah, please read.
This is the divinity of the personality of Godhead. He is not affected by the qualities of material nature, even though he is in contact with them. Similarly, the devotees who have taken shelter of the Lord do not become influenced by the material qualities.
So this is the nature of the Lord. The divinity of the Lord is that he is never affected by the qualities of the material nature. Just like Lord is not affected by the material qualities, so are his devotees. So devotees who take full shelter of the Lord, they are protected by the internal potency of the Lord. Right? Daivihi Esha Gunamaya. So they are also not influenced by the material qualities of the material world. Right? So we have the example, so many examples of this. Like for example, Haridas Thakur. He was allured by even Maya potency, the material energy of the Lord directly, but he was not at all deviated from his platform of spiritual consciousness. So many examples. Ambarish Maharaj, he was not distracted. Prahlad Maharaj. So all these great examples show that even devotees of the Lord are also never affected by the qualities of the material nature. So the idea is practical lesson is one should take shelter of the Lord and become the devotee of the Lord. Sincerely endeavor to become a pure devotee of the Lord so that one is not influenced by the material qualities while he is existing in the material world. Yeah, please read.
The Lord emphatically declares in the Bhagavad Gita 9.30 that even if an unalloyed devotee is found to be fallen due to a previous material contamination, he is nevertheless to be accepted as fully transcendental because of his being engaged. Sorry, once again. The Lord emphatically declares in Bhagavad Gita 9.30 that even if an unalloyed devotee is found to be fallen due to a previous material contamination, he is nevertheless to be accepted as fully transcendental because of his being engaged 100% in the devotional service of the Lord. The Lord protects him always because of his rendering service unto him, and the fallen conditions are to be considered accidental and temporary. They will vanish in no time.
Suppose the jiva once in a while falls into material contamination by accident. One should not condemn him. Chipram bhavati dharmana, right? So even if he falls temporarily, one should consider him to be still great Mahatma. Because Lord protects him always, because he has rendered service in the past. And the falling conditions are to be considered accident and temporary. So that is they will vanish in no time. So that is the potency of the process of bhakti. Even though sometimes one will be shaken up, still if one sticks to the path of bhakti, he will be eventually, achieve the shelter of the Lord, mercy of the Lord. Yeah. So that is the potency of the Lord. Generally, once he is purified, he will never fall, he will never be contaminated. But sometimes, because of past conditioning, if he falls, still he will be revived. Vyasadeva clearly declares, Lord is transcendental, he is not affected by material qualities, so are his devotees. Prabhupada clarifies, sometimes even if they fall, he will again achieve his perfection. So basically the flow is, the Lord was received by the general devotees and then received by his mothers and then received by his consorts. And we heard about the exchanges between each of these category of devotees, how they actually feel for the Lord and how they serve. After that, Vyasadeva establishes the position of Lord's transcendental nature. And he also glorifies Lord as well as his devotees. I believe this is the last. Yeah. Tammenire balamudha.
Tammenire balamudha.
Strainam chanuvratam raha.
Trainam chano vratam raha.
Apramana vido bhartur.
Apramana vido bhartur.
Ishwaram matayo yata.
Ishwaram matayo yata.
Yeah, please read. Please read.
The simple and delicate women truly thought that Lord Sri Krishna, their beloved husband, followed them and was dominated by them. They were unaware, excuse me, sorry. They were unaware of the extent of the glories of their husband, as the atheists are unaware of him as the supreme controller.
So the simple and delicate women, actually they were all great sages in their past life. Otherwise, how can they become wives of God? But they were covered by the internal potential. Simple and delicate women truly thought that the Lord Krishna, their beloved husband, followed them and dominated by them. They thought like they were able to dominate Lord. They were unaware of the extent of the glories of their husband. He is the source of all existence. As the atheists are unaware of him as supreme controller. But there is a difference. Atheists are covered by what? What is the difference between atheist misunderstanding of Lord's position and the wives of Lords? Thinking about
Maya?
Yeah, atheists were covered by, it's called Mahamaya, the external potential of the man. That basically makes them misunderstand Lord's position. They think Lord is ordinary. Lord is ordinary like one of them. That is the position of the atheist. But for the theists understand what? Theists are specifically the wives of Lord. They are also covered, but they are covered by what Maya? What is it called?
Yogamaya.
Yeah. When Yogamaya covers, what happens? What do the devotee think when Yogamaya covers them?
They are still attached to the Lord, but they don't still consider Lord as a Lord.
If suppose you always consider suppose your friend is a prime minister, very close friend, will you always consider him as prime minister and approach him like that? What happens if you do that?
The relationship won't be there.
Right.
It
It's
will
not,
be different relationship.
yeah, but deep connection cannot be. He cannot express his pain. He cannot open up before you, and you cannot open up before him. Right? There is no relish in that rasa. There is no rasa. There is no real feelings in the majestic feeling. There is no personal connection. So on purpose, the devotees of Lord were covered from the extraordinary position of the Lord, so that they can engage and reciprocate with Lord for his pleasure. Now, for example, Mother Yashoda always thinks the Lord is hungry and she has to feed him. The Gopas or Gopal, they want to play, they want to get on the back of Lord. That is how the Lord will be pleased. So the internal potency of the Lord, Yogamaya actually manifests or covers the pure devotees so that they can actually engage in a very personal relation with the Supreme Lord. Right? So that the personal exchange between Lord and his devotees are actually full of rasa, juice. Right? Yeah. Please read. So this answers your question, right, Prabhu? Nitin Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. Only one question I have is then when Lord does all the like opulence of either killing or like Lord got the Dvārakā created within a day. Then also Lord kills all the asuras which are very impossible to get killed. So how one would react to that, whether he's a supreme person or he's just a powerful demigod, or I'm just curious on that front.
So they suddenly feel, oh, this personality is really great, and then again they forget. It's like
I see.
so when Yashodhama saw the whole universe in the mouth of Lord,
Yes.
first she was shocked, and then Lord Krishna himself feels, okay, I should take away this feeling from her, and then he will take away, and they forget about that, and again she thinks that my Krishna needs, some butter to be given. He's hungry. Again, the whole feelings come back. So constantly, Yogamaya acts to make the devotee forget
What all.
of the Supreme Lord. Yeah.
Got it.
Even for example, Arjuna heard the whole Bhagavad Gita. He accepted. He said, "Lord, you are Paramdama, Paramam Bhavan, Purusham Sasvatam Divyam." All that he said. But then again, when the war started, he had to sometimes kick the Lord. Hey, move left, move right. Because there is no time to speak, or he was busy fighting, so he has to use his leg and on the Lord to move him left, right. How can one do that unless he thinks that he is of the same age and same, right? So even though they sometimes maybe realizing the fact of the supremacy of the Lord, immediately they will be covered, right? Just like ordinary jivas. Duryodhana is other way, right? Sometimes he sees the greatness of the Lord, but then he will be covered by Mahamaya immediately. So it works exact reverse, right? Sometimes even ordinary materialistic people, when they consider the death of their relatives, suddenly there is smasan vairagya comes, right? But they won't continue that. Very soon Mahamaya covers them again, and they again go back to the material world and again go pursue things of this world again and again. So it always works like that until one tries to change that. Specifically, from Mahamaya, one, as they endeavor to get out of it, they will be coming out of it.
So Prabhu, is it true like Mahamaya cannot touch the pure devotee, so it has to cover by Yoga Maya, but if the devotee is not or person is not pure enough, then Mahamaya can act on him.
Yeah, sometimes we are in the beginning, one is not fully purified. At the time, there is still Mahamaya acting on him, right? Still, until that ignorance is fully eradicated, fully removed, avidya is fully removed from the mind of the sadhana bhakta, there's always chance for fall down. Even stage of
Nityabaddas, Mahamaya acts, and Nitya Siddhas, Yogamaya acts. Is that something?
yeah. So yeah, we are still on the way, and we are still very much influenced by Mahamaya. Conditioning, right? So we have to be very careful. That's the reason we follow 4 regulative principles. Those are like guardrails. So that, if you follow those, 90% of the cases are covered, 95%. And still again, there will be, you have to be on the guard all the time. So that we always pray that we never fall victim to Maya. That is another thing Prabhupada said always. Somebody asked Prabhupada how you are always so, you always say, I'll kick Maya with my boots like that. So how do you speak like that? Then Prabhupada said, I go to Kṛṣṇa and always pray to protect me from Maya. Right? With that, I get the strength to face the Maya. So that's actually a lesson for us, not for Prabhupada. Prabhupada is only transcendental. We should be always afraid of Maya. We should think that I am insignificant and Maya can overpower me anytime. So I should always take shelter of Lord sincerely. and that is my only shelter. It's never that, okay, I studied this books, that book, and I know everything. I know better and I'm safe. It's never like that. You should always feel the need to be protected by illusions of this world.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah, please read this to paragraph.
Even the transcendental wives of Lord Sri Krishna did not know completely the unfathomable glories of the Lord. This ignorance is not mundane because there is some action of internal potency of the Lord in the exchange of feelings between him and his associates. The Lord exchanged transcendental relations in 5 ways: as proprietor, master, friend, son, and lover, and in each of these pastimes he plays fully by the potency of Yogamaya, the internal potency. Such devotees of the Lord never think of Lord as the supreme, but think of him exactly as a common friend, a pet son, or a lover or husband, very much dear to heart and soul. That is the relation between the Lord and his transcendental devotees, who act as his associates in the spiritual sky where there are innumerable Vaikuntha planets. When the Lord descends, he does so along with his entourage to display a complete picture of the transcendental world where pure love and devotion for the Lord prevail without any mundane tinge of lording it over the creation of the Lord.
Even though when they come to the material world, they are not touched. So this ends the chapter. So now we'll next, Sanakadi Rishis now again inquired about Parikshit Maharaj in the next chapter, in the 12th chapter. So last few chapters were a slight, tangent or distraction from the main theme. But again, Sanakadi Rishis remind Sutta Goswami about the original topic they started with. Now they will inquire about the extraordinary birth of Parikshit, extraordinary activities of Parikshit, the extraordinary death of Parikshit, and many such things will be inquired in the next chapter. So we'll end here. It's 4 p.m. We'll continue next week. Thank you all very much. I'm sorry for the delay in the beginning.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Dandavat pranam.
Thank you, Bro. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare.
Hare Krishna.